Hey, what's up everybody, this is Justin here to review Seiju Sentai Gingaman. 3,000 years ago, a renegade group of space pirates known as the Baruban tried to take over the Earth. They were stopped and sealed by a group of 5 heroes known as the Gingaman. And they were the residents of a village hidden in the forest called the Ginga Forest. Now, those years have passed and the forest is still hidden from the rest of the world, and a group of villagers are trained in martial arts and elemental powers called Earth. And in order to be recognized as Gingaman, they are given these swords called Seiju Ken. The current chosen wielders of the Seiju Ken are Hyuga, the Master of Fire, and he's Ginga Red. Hayate, Master of Wind, is Ginga Green. Goki, Master of Water, is Ginga Blue. Hikaru is Ginga Yellow and Master of Lightning. And Saya, Ginga Pink, is the Master of Flowers. And due to an unfortunate earthquake, the seal on Baruban has been broken and the Gingaman must fight them. And during the initial battle, Hyuga's brother Ryoma, also trained in earth power, tries to join, and while trying to protect him, Hyuga falls into a crevice and passes his powers and the Seiju Ken to Hyuga so he can become Ginga Red. Honoring his sacrifice, Ryoma assumes the responsibilities. And as you listen to this synopsis, some of these elements are also an influence on the Power Rangers adaptation, Lost Galaxy. But if you have any familiarity with that Power Rangers season, there are some significant changes and some significant similarities. But just like Zyuranger and Dairanger, Gingaman is more fantasy-oriented as opposed to sci-fi-oriented, and other than the bad guys being space pirates, it really has little to nothing to do with outer space. Other than the Red Ranger's brother situation, really the Sentai series and the Power Rangers adaptation, this is all they share in common for the most part. Like in Zyuranger, outside of the Ranger outfits, the Gingaman will wear their village clothing, even in public. So they are in a situation where it doesn't matter if the public knows their secret identities or not. So they can show up in town, fight the enemies without their costumes, and then henshin as a last resort with people watching, and there'd be no issue about it. But up until the last third of the series, there is really no significant development with the characters, and this is all until the last act. And I was under the impression that by reason of tabula rasa, they didn't really exactly have to develop the characters in a way the audience would not exactly have any issues with it. For the most part, these characters, they've trained their whole lives to assume these responsibilities, so there's really no need to further explore it to some more depth. There are some notable exceptions, such as Hikaru being the youngest, and he has to learn how to use his powers more responsibly in an episode. However, there are some episodes that explore the characters' personalities and traits. Ryoma is driven by his brother's sacrifice. Goki, despite his size, is caring and emotional, and he has a crush on his caretaker's teacher. And Hayate is serious and responsible, and I think he shows the most leadership qualities. Hikaru is really childish, and Saya, she's pretty leveled. So despite the lack of any significant character development, the characters are distinctible and interesting in their own ways, which bring life to the story. However, there will be an addition to a character called the Black Knight, who you may remember as the Magma Defender in Lost Galaxy. If any character got any significant development, it was most certainly him. But the last arc has a very excellent character-centric story arc where it makes you care about them and the strengths of their relationships and how strong they believe they have to accomplish their mission. The villains are pretty nasty and strong that even one monster is enough to make one ranger weak as a kitten if they go one-on-one. The bad guys in terms of gimmicks are very diverse. Despite being pirates, one is portrayed as a biker, and another is like a traditional samurai warrior, and another is like an Egyptian royalty person. It brings a certain kind of flavor where it does feel out of strange, but at the same time, it brings an interesting chemistry. One thing that really stands out to me is the casting of Mizutani Kei as one of the villains. She was a popular nude model in the 90s and was the lead in the live-action Weather Report Girl, which I saw way back in junior high school. I rented the raw from the raw video, raw Japanese, at a local Tower record. Then again, this isn't the first time that Sentai has made such a cast. In Car Ranger, one of the villains was a former porn star, but as far as I know, Mizutani K has just only done nude modeling and not exactly any porn. And of course, in Akiba Ranger, they had Honoka. But that's a completely different situation. But her outfit is very complimentary of her figure, so I leave the story and characters at an 8.25 out of 10. The fighting and costume is more appropriate in conjunction to that of adapting animal-like movements. The characters will always run and assume a low crouching stance and, putting their hands in a claw-like position. As opposed to punching, they will scratch. It is more emphasized on speed and agility. While they are not in costume when they fight, they will, take more of an upright stance and use their swords a lot. So the action in and out of costume is pretty much different. The mechs are very unique. Like in Zyuranger and Dairanger, they are really sentient beings and not exactly robots. It's also like this in the original Go Line, which became not Transformers, but Voltron in the American adaptation. They both have an organic form and a robot-like form, and I think it brings a really original and unique flavor. The enemies they face tend to be really strong, as I said before, but I think they bring a different kind of danger to the fights. In a lot of other Sentai, some monsters are enough for one Ranger, while in this one, the 5 of them really do struggle in most episodes. It can be something of a double-edged sword, but it is kind of complicated to watch since they grew up training their whole lives for this kind of threat, and with their training, you'd assume that one member could actually go toe-to-toe. Either they were just undertrained, or maybe they flat-out suck, or the monsters are just that strong. In some cases, it is justified, but at the same times, I guess you need to buy a credible threat. I do have a love-hate relationship with the action, but the mech is, in regards to how strong the monsters are, of course, but the mech designs really bring a fresh element. For a majority of the first third of the series, a lot of action wouldn't be out of costume. Considering that these characters are formally trained, you think there will be more scenes like that, but as the series progresses, there will be more fights out of costume, and I have a really strong preference for Sentai series like that because you can take them more seriously as warriors. And for that, I give the action another 8.25 out of 10. The music just has this very excellent soundtrack. It really works most effectively in the third act, where it gets really emotionally invoking. The opening scene just has this grand feel that suits the bestial nature of the show, while the ending theme complements the countryside background. So I give the music an 8.5 out of 10. Well, if you're looking for a Sentai with fantasy as opposed to sci-fi, this is one of those Sentais that I can recommend. The development that you wish to see won't be present until as the ending approaches, but the wait is worth it. I think Mizutani K alone is worth watching it at times, but I can't really think of Sai in that kind of way because she looks like a person I personally know. But anyway, don't come to this series expecting Power Rangers Lost Galaxy other than the Black Knight, and there are really no common qualities, as I said before. Of course, they need swords as well to become the Rangers. But it was nice to see that the Pink Ranger actress in Lost Galaxy beat leukemia, and that she's now pretty healthy, and glad that she's back to the franchise from what I've heard. But other than that, yeah, this was a decent series. As I said, I do have some mixed feelings about the action, but I do see why they took this direction and why they took it in that direction at times. It's something that the series does present where you do think that it is a good reason that they did it that way. So I give this series a final score of an 8.3 out of 10. And for my next review, look forward to an anime review of Slam Dunk.